Hello, hello. So today's transmission, back on the couch with Madam Lydia Pops, is about self-responsibility. So basically, self-responsibility is something that it can take a while for people to brew into. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of victim consciousness on the planet, and I've studied a lot about colonization over the years, and I come from what would be regarded as a colonized country, and we've all got these stories in us because our DNA holds the stories and the programming from other times. So there's been a lot of bloodshed, there have been a lot of territories invaded, and there have been a lot of victims and perpetrators over the times. And what can happen is that programming can end up with us feeling like the world has done us a bad hand, and we can be carrying the shackles and the burdens of our ancestors, but we can be very woe is me, and people call it a poor me. Yeah, so self-responsibility is about acknowledging that, but actually coming to a point where we can say, right, well, that ends with me, and I'm actually going to take responsibility for my actions, and not labeling ourselves as a victim, because we're always going to constantly attract things that will make us more downtrodden if we're always a victim. Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to say about that, or anything that you've noticed or had to go through yourself?
Yeah, when it's funny because we did a video talking about, where I'm from and stuff like that. And when I first started on, with my spirituality, I started opening up. I was obsessed with the story and about where I come from, and I wanted everyone to know how poor I was. I didn't go on about it, but I wanted to. Yeah. I wanted people to know. I wanted people to ask me. I wanted to let people know, I'm like this now, but I used to be like this. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I think now I'm at the other end where, I don't attach myself to my story anymore, but I get people asking me about it. Yeah. It's like when I wanted everyone to know, no one wanted to know. Mm-hmm. And when I dealt with it and then sort of come out the other end and I realised that you can't carry that forever, and actually that was part of something that doesn't even exist anymore. When I started realising that and coming alive, that's when people are like, oh, by the way, what is your background, Lydia? Because I'm talking about it in a way where I'm not attached to it, I'm not still and this and and still having charge around the stories and around the injuries that come with, poverty and coming from, ancestral slavery and or famines and all the rest of it, you know what I mean?
Totally. It's this woe is me, and I totally agree. There are some people, and we know they've got awful stories, and it's tricky, but sometimes the field that people give off is so heavy and difficult that it just makes people not want to interact with them. And then this makes people feel abandoned, which perpetuates everything, and nobody's interested, and everybody's a bad person, which is putting them into being a perpetrator. Where actually, the person is unconsciously always creating themselves as a victim, so they're always going to create somebody being a baddie. And so if we want to free ourselves from that loop that our ancestors have had, and especially for the kids to come, if we want the kids in let's call them low-income areas, or kids who've got issues, to do well, we have to try to really have self-responsibility and clear those stories from our field so that they don't have to come in with their little violins.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can look after them then if we're all like, oh, please help me.
Yeah, this is it.
Look at my story.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, this is what I think is quite interesting with where we're making this is during this COVID-19 thing, is everybody's involved. So this what was me is like, well, yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly. What was them, what was you?
We're all indoors, and this may actually level some stuff off for people to actually have to go through the vortex to go, actually, everybody's not even a victim, is just in this situation. But actually, I think what I heard somebody on a train the other day, she was playing something, and a woman was just on some recording and just that being like, my life's turned to shit since the COVID. I can't go to bingo anymore. They've taken my life away. This was like the official lockdown hadn't even happened. It was about to happen that day. And it's just like, this is this thing. And it's like this state of paralysis and and poor me does not create anything positive.
No, it holds you down.
Yeah.
It's a stranglehold.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, and with that as well comes giving away your power.
Yeah, that's it.
And letting people make decisions for you. You know, and needing validation to go ahead with like, all right, I've got this thought and I've got this feeling, I want to do it, but I'm going to wait to see what you think about it first. I'm going to hand it over to the government.
Thank you.
You know, and let them let them take away my liberties, basically.
Yeah. So this is it, because it's very interesting. I'm observing what's happened in the news, and I stopped, but I feel I had to do some research, and it's the amount of fear and victim stuff that's gone into the field has meant that, like, it's interesting, because I'm seeing that the UK government haven't said, this is not a police state, you have no power, you have to be indoors all the time. And at the time of making this recording, the police have actually been taken up, and they've had to write a new instruction, because some police were running ahead of themselves. But actually, everybody's saying, but nobody said that, because people are letting it happen, and people have been inclined to look at the news of what's happening in maybe Spain or Italy and decide that that's the situation we're under. And people have created a fear story that's actually trying to attract that. And the government's busy going, we didn't say that. We didn't say that. Hello. And it's highly ironic. And I worry about self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
If the people decide to be victims of an imaginary situation, then they are going to give their power away. And this is this whole thing. You've got this time off to shift your victim consciousness. And we've got to all do that and see that you're not a victim. We're a victim of our own greed. We're a victim of this consumerist society. And I will be putting some links of some amazing videos some friends have done about what they call the karma, or the cause and effect of our lifestyle on this energetic of what this virus is doing. And it's important for us to look at ourselves as somehow in the natural setup, that this virus has come at this time, and it's to teach us something. But if we stay in a contracted victim status, we're not ever going to get self-responsibility to realise it's teaching us something.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what has it taught you, or just any codes about self-responsibility that you've found in your life, where you've actually found when you've gone through something, you've actually found, I owned that, and then what's opened up for you?
Yeah. Well, I used to get this thing. One of my major stories that used to play out a lot was feeling like an outsider. Mm-hmm. And feeling like I didn't fit in and sticking out like a sore thumb. And that I was talking about that awkwardness feeling where I was releasing all that energy. That's what used to present itself when I was in groups, and I didn't feel like I could speak up. And what I realised is, all the judgments I was making about myself, I was projecting onto other people. Mm-hmm. So therefore I couldn't be around other people. But it took me a while to stop personalising it and looking again for the story to hook on with situations that I'm in, and realise, no, this story's going to follow me around for life until I look at the story and stop looking at other people. Mm-hmm. It's gonna come through in the most amazing ways, through the most diverse set of people. It's gonna find a way to come through, because it's a wound that wants to be healed. So it's never gonna stop presenting itself until you go, all right, okay, I'm gonna take the wound rather than personalise this situation and say that you are doing something wrong to me because you're making me feel like this. No, I feel like this. I feel like this all the time. Yeah, brilliant. Is what's underneath it.
So you're saying that the universe has signs that keep repeating to keep showing us where the medicine
definitely.
is.
For sure, and they'll show themselves in your friends, your family, and then when you cut all them off, it'll start showing themselves in the people. It'll come. It's like a weed, when you chop its head off, it'll just sprout up in a different place. Yeah,
I've got a friend that says similar, and says, if you've got a problem and it comes 3 times, maybe the problem's something you need to look at personally.
Yeah.
So it's this thing that everybody's busy, and this is, I think, one of these saboteur aspects that we've got, is busy blaming the government, blaming something, and rather than getting on with it and going, right, what can I do to take self-responsibility for my nutrition, for my immune system, for making my room look good, or whatever, so that we can actually grow through this.